Boys and girls,
men and women,
ladies and gentlemen,
of all ages,
Play Your Court family, and
Happy
those
New
of
Year!
you that snuck in here off of Facebook and YouTube. How you guys doing? Do us a favor, drop us a note. We're on a pretty serious delay here, so drop us a note in the comments section. Let us know our audio is good. Let us know where you're watching from. Let us know how many pounds you gained over the holiday break. For me, it was
all of them.
It was about 9.5 pounds.
That's right.
It's not
9.5?
great. 9.5. Yeah, it's not great.
I think mine since March is 20 plus.
20 plus pounds.
But I'm down 7, world.
There you go.
New year, new me.
That's right. I don't know if you can tell, but underneath Nate's black jacket, he's way skinnier than he was this time last year. No?
Yeah. No,
it kind of looks like you're like hiding. Like,
yeah, I think
it's cool. I'm just really fat under here, but no one will ever know.
I'm just cold.
If you're wondering why we're both wearing black, it's because we're really sad because we're really fat, but wearing black makes us... All right, we've got enough people in here. Start saying hello, guys. Tell us where you're from.
And again, guys, we're in a little bit of a delay.
Fun fact, Nate, we were muted that whole time. No, we weren't. See, this is all I need you to drop in the comment section, guys. Give us a thumbs up if our audio is good. There we go. You sound fine. Hello from the Woodlands, Texas.
Howdy, Woodland.
Howdy, Woodland?
Texas. I think you didn't say names. Woodland.
Big Daddy 812. What's going on? Alina. Hey, Terry. Hands Up Holidays. I like that screen name.
Yee!
Muhammad from Egypt. That might be a first. I don't think we ever had anybody from Egypt on here before. Very
Muhammad,
cool.
Welcome.
All right, looks like we've got about 78 people in here between our Talk Tennis group for our Plus members, our YouTube channel, our Facebook live stream feed. Oh, look at this. Tone Deaf Teams from Hawaii. Very cool. Letitia from Louisville.
Hi, Letitia.
Nice to see all you guys. We're going to give this another minute or two, and then we're going to get started. But again, drop in the comments section how much weight you gained over the holidays. Because it would just make me feel better. Yeah. You know, like if we're looking a little chubby, this is the first time you've seen us in 2021, and there's just so much more of us to love than there was in 2020.
Let us know if you're getting started. I feel like January is such a cliche to clean up, but I have started dry January.
Life's too hard not to drink, so you're on your own there, bud.
But I'm doing well, man. I'm in the gym probably 5 days a week, playing a little bit more tennis.
There we go. Adam says 3 pounds. Somebody says they lost 5 pounds. I don't respect that at all. James Moskowitz says probably 10 pounds. All right. Now you guys are making me feel a little bit better.
I think James is local. James, are
you in VB? I ask that, and now it'll be 45 seconds before I get to see his response. It's a shame. Siraj, what are you guys doing to lose weight over the holidays? Don't you know you're supposed to eat all the cookies and sweets and whatnot? I know we did.
I mean, I don't even have a sweet tooth, man, but give me all the stuffing and dressing and mashed potatoes, all that.
Oh, look at this. Lance Lessler in, I always pronounce it. Oh, he's in Pennsylvania. And then we have somebody in, I always say this wrong, where MJ lives. Not Lancaster.
Lancaster.
I can't do it.
No, I don't know.
I can speak Spanish, but I can't say Lancaster in English. Adam says drop the fork. That's what he did to lose weight. Richard, good to see you. Bretzer, good to see you. Nina, all right, we've got enough people in here to probably get this party started. So for those of you guys, there's also a computer here. I don't know if you can see that on the thing we're filming on. I'm not just looking, not just looking at my feet. I know I've gotten that other live streams. But what we've got going on here, if you've never been on one of these live trainings, so we put these together purposefully, honestly, for our Plus members. If you're not familiar with the Play Your Court community, I would be shocked that you somehow made it to this live stream by now. But if you're not familiar with what Plus is basically just the Play Your Court community on steroids. Like the community is $6 a month. It helps you meet other players. Most of you guys are probably already in there. Plus is where you get to actually interact with Nate and I live. You can send us your strokes. We'll analyze them. And by we, I mean Nate, because he's the technique genius. And then you have access to every video course you've ever created. So when you log into your Play Your Court dashboard and you see under the video section, all those things that are locked, all those premium video courses, those are all magically unlocked when you become a Plus member. And we run these, it sort of varies. We used to run them weekly. Over the winter, there was a little bit less demand. So we've been doing one a month in January and February. Once we get back into tennis season, March, April, where we've got a lot more attendance, we'll pick these things back up again. But if you're in the Plus community, make sure you've got the ability to fill out and ask us questions ahead of these calls. So it doesn't look like anybody took us up on that, and normally they don't. We have a specific topic. Sometimes we'll just do a Q&A and we'll get a lot of questions, but make sure you check that out. But tonight we're talking about single strategy and some patterns you guys can use to win some more points, beat some of those super annoying players out there. So if everybody's ready to get this party started, just type ready into the chat and we'll start firing some information at you. Got a lot more hellos here too. We've got Susan, good to see you. Claudio from Brazil. Man, I'm so honored to be talking to people from cooler places.
The interwebs, man, it's crazy how it works, right? It's like all over the world, there's the internet.
Yeah, who knew?
Yeah,
who knew? All right, ready. We're getting the readies. All right, we're gonna get this party started. I don't know if you guys can tell this from watching our YouTube channel, but I am certainly the dumber coach between the two of us. So I always like to start out with the basic information that I think a lot of rec players maybe have heard, maybe haven't heard, and then Nate swoops in and just blows your mind with some crazy stuff. So some of this stuff you may have heard, but I have a feeling just based on the results I see in rec league tennis, a lot of you are going to hear this and you're going to understand it. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, I know that already, but I make this mistake. So let me break this down for you. Before we dive into like the actual singles point and the point is underway, I wanted to show you some basic concepts of when to play offense and when to play defense. Because if you get this wrong, sort of everything that Ninja Nate's going to come in here and drop on your plate isn't going to make nearly as much sense. So here's what I want you to think about. And I'm going to give you a baseline and then we'll make adjustments based on what you've got going on. So as a general rule of thumb, take each half of the singles court and divide it right down the middle. And now you've got this middle section and you've got two outside sections. Maybe
make the line a little thicker.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Oh yeah, that's so
you guys can see it better now. So the idea here, and this is a pretty simple idea. The idea is if you're inside this middle third of the court, this is a great place to play offense from. Why? You can set your feet, you can step into the ball, you can transfer weight. You're never going to be, hopefully hitting off your back foot unless you get pushed really far back. This is where you're balanced and where you're going to have the most success trying harder shots. All right. So when it's time to redirect the ball and go down the line, we really want to see that happening most of the time from here. And we will address what happens, obviously, when you get pulled short, all bets are off. Like approach shots, ignore what I'm saying right now. But when you're on the baseline and you're in the middle third of the court, this is the place we want you to play offense from. Outside of this zone is where we want you and where you really need to be playing defense from. And what I said earlier about how we're going to adjust this based on what you've got going on, if you're really fast, like if you're Rafa Nadal, maybe these lines move all the way out here. And the reason for that is you're just so fast that you can get back to the middle and get back in position faster. The idea is the further you get pulled out of position, the faster you are to get back to the middle of the court, the bigger this area gets for you guys. So, make these adjustments based on what you know about yourself. I'm old. I've had knee surgery. My lines are more like this. I'm just kidding.
I was going to say, ours are a little bit,
they're
not Nadal.
They're narrower when you get older, and that's okay. That's how life works, and it's a bummer, but it's what we got, right?
Age, man.
So, take what you just learned here when you're out of position and on defense. We want you to play defensive balls to really simplify this. The two defensive balls I'm talking about are a ball that goes cross court because it's the furthest distance and gives you maximum time to get back in position, or high. So like maybe I'm a right-handed player and I know that Nate's backhand is garbage and he's also a right-handed player.
So much better.
So
have y'all seen my new one-hander? It's so much better.
Actually, comment below if you love Nate's new one-hander because it's
we
true.
haven't
it
even
really
updated.
is.
It's kind of getting good.
Yeah.
And I don't say very nice things about my game very often, but the one-hander is kind of getting good.
Yeah, it's not bad. All right, so if I'm the black dot and Nate's the white dot up here, he's right-handed. This is his backhand side. So maybe I get a forehand out wide and I'm at a position, but I'm like, man, like his cross-court forehand's really good. I don't necessarily want to play this back cross-court. An option here would be to hit really high to give myself time to recover to his backhand side. So that's an option as well, right? So when you're at a position, those are your two defensive options. Cross-court, the furthest distance, or high, both with the goal of giving yourself time to recover back to the middle of the court. All right? So knowing this, When we apply what we know about offense and defense, hey, we play defense from the outer thirds, cross quarter high, and we play offense from the middle third, which can really be wherever we want. That's the time where we can take risks. Let's now apply serve and return to this. And I think you're going to see something right out of the gates that's really interesting. So if I draw these lines up top.
Well, let me reiterate something really quick. I don't know if you missed it because Scott talks really fast. What he's talking about too, when you're on the outer thirds of the court, so when you're here, if you hit down the line, you're taking time away from yourself, right?
Yeah.
You're behind the baseline. You're giving your opponent time, and by playing the shortest distance of the court, you're taking your own time away because you get the ball to them quicker. Now, all bets are off, though. If you get a short ball, angles create angles, right? So, like, as soon as you get your feet inside, it's time for offense. But if you're back here, what Scott's saying is that you need time to get yourself back here somewhere towards middle.
And this is a big mistake. Like, the problem is visually what happens is we move out wide. And we got in this cross-court rally. So Nate and I are rallying back and forth cross-court. And as I set up to hit that ball, I look with my peripheral vision, and Nate's still really far out wide. So I start to set up. My eyes drop to the ball. Well, during that time, Nate recovers back pretty close to the middle of the court. I try and hit the ball, you know, where we all try and hit the ball in this magical little square right here. But what happens is we're not Roger Federer. So the ball actually lands more like right here. Nate takes 2 steps and rips his one-handed backhand cross court. And
awesome one-handed backhand.
And what I thought was taking control of the point by hitting down the line has actually put me just on a full-out sprint to get that cross court backhand that he just hit. So now that you understand why we play defense from the outer thirds and offense from the middle thirds, like you can see here, I can hit down the line, and it doesn't matter if I've lost time because I'm in position to cover the court, right? So now that you understand this, let's take a look at serve and return and what happens when our singles points start. And this is where things get really interesting. So the reason serving is such an advantage in tennis is take a look at this. The server starts in the middle third of the court in position, and the returner starts in the outer third of the court out of position. So guess what? Anytime you serve the ball out wide or even towards the body, you're keeping your opponent outside of this middle third of the court, meaning they really shouldn't be attacking here, and you're in control of the point. Now, we, of course, want to serve up the tee, and obviously if you've got bigger serves, it becomes more and more appealing for 2 reasons. 1, maybe you can smack an ace up the tee. 2, maybe you're playing a right-handed player with a really weak backhand. That makes sense too. But in general, the idea is if you serve out wide, the reason we as coaches like this so much on both the deuce and the ad side, serving out wide, you're in position, your opponent is out of position, and this is where I can introduce the first pattern for you that I want you to make automatic in your game. When you're serving and you serve this ball out wide, if you get a ball that is anywhere other than in this, and I guess really technically, it's really just the only place. Sorry, I made a boo-boo. I drew a big boo-boo. So really, honestly, if it's short, you're good. Honestly, if they can get the ball right here, then you've got to play defense. Everywhere else on the court right now is offense. Type in the chat if that makes sense. If you see this, look, we just talked about how if you're out of position, you should never hit this ball down the line, right? We also just talked about how if you're in the middle third of the court, this is where you want to attack from. And we talked about how when you get pulled out wide, you've got to play defense. Short, you come to the net. Anywhere in this middle third of the court, if they're out wide, it makes sense to attack here. So my automatic pattern, and this works on both the deuce and the ad side, is to serve out wide. And if I see any ball that's not in this square, I'm attacking to this X. And if I hit it good enough, I'm coming to the net.
Let me add something to that, though, because I think some of you out there are like, yeah, but what if my opponent has a monster forehand, right? These principles apply at a higher level, but when you start thinking about ratings and whatnot, it really only becomes a liability if maybe you're playing I don't know, 3-5 and below. If you, or heck, man, I mean, we know plenty of higher level players that have a weak serve. If you have a lollipop of a serve and you're just floating it in over there, yeah, it's not a great strategy.
And it's not a great strategy because you're giving them an approach shot. You're giving them a ball here, not a ball that pushes them back.
But the idea here is that you've got good control over a wide slice serve. And with that being said, I know a ton of like 3-5s with just terrific slice serves. So I don't want to certainly make generalizations, but this is assuming that you have an offensive first serve.
Right.
I mean, for fact, I think I'll probably butcher this stat, but in 2018, Federer hit 78% of first serves out wide on the deuce court. 78% of the time, Federer hit his first serve out wide on the deuce court. And the opponents know it. I mean, like, every player in the top 100 in the world knows, maybe not the top 100, top 30, where all the prize money is.
There's nothing you can do. You still got to keep it out of this square. You're getting beat.
That tell them these patterns, and it just doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter that Rafa knows that Roger's slicing the ball out wide, because if he doesn't hit a good enough ball on the return, Roger's putting it into the open court or he's going behind.
That's why these patterns are so effective, because even if your opponent knows that's what's coming, they still work unless they can execute a really, really great return here.
So I see. Yeah, you just put it up.
So yeah, take a look at this. So Adams, what if my serve sucks? So honestly, the answer here is retreat right back to what we talked about with these strategies. The same rules apply. It's certainly not as interesting of a pattern if your serve isn't strong enough, because pulling them out wide, may not push them far enough out or far enough back where they're actually on defense. If you're hitting a lollipop serve where they're taking approach shots, then this is a problem. But I'd have to know how bad your serve sucks, honestly, because I have a feeling if it's even halfway okay and you're still pulling them out wide and they're not taking it and coming to the net, these same rules still apply. We get another question.
And be nice to your serve. It doesn't suck. It's like it's trying.
You don't know, Adams.
And I would just add to that, if your serve is really, really weak, right? At that point, you're trying to locate the opponent's weaker wing.
And you shouldn't be worried about singles patterns. You should be working to a point where your serve isn't a massive liability.
If you're hitting the biggest weapon in tennis, you got to have it.
Yeah. If you're hitting such a weak serve that you're just giving approach shots to your opponent, the single strategy is go work on your serve until that's not.
But we're going to get into some meat and potato points from the building phase. So stick around, because that's the piece that's going to be really helpful. You're going to have to kind of grind out of that serve return position to get the advantage.
Let me respond to a couple folks here. Mike from Vancouver, what's going on? Roberto, what's going on? Happy New Year, my man. Couple questions. Justin McDaniel's on here live. What's going on, my brother?
JD?
Let's see here. So Edmund asks, how about if they hit far backhand on the return? So in this exact scenario, I've served out wide. I'm right-handed. Nate rips the ball down the line to my backhand. It's the same concept we addressed earlier. Unless Nate puts the ball in this tiny little square, I'm stepping in, taking all of his time away by hitting the ball cross court. All right. So again, this seems appealing, and this is a mistake we make as returners. And again, we need to apply this to returner. You also just learned that when you're returning, if you get pulled out wide, this is your target area. And if you miss, if your opponent knows what they're doing, you're going to be on defense. And this is why serves are so important, and why the idea of holding serve as you get to a higher level becomes so much easier, because we understand these patterns. But again, yeah, Edmund, man, unless a perfect down the line rip in a very small area of the court happens, any ball in this area, I'm still stepping in, taking my backhand cross court, taking Nate's time away. He should be on more or less a full out sprint to his weaker backhand side. I can come in, shadow the net up here, and close a forehand volley. So,
and the only time it would really make sense otherwise is like if you're targeting as broad, but this person has such a poor backhand, it really doesn't make any difference.
Right.
Like, but that's lower level strategy, right? So like, and guys, just to be clear, most of this is kind of higher level, but it should be applied in the kind of that intermediate. I'll
tell you what's high level. So applying the strategy for execution to go on offense is high level. Understanding that when you're on these outside thirds of the court, you're actually doing damage to yourself when you hit down the line.
Yeah.
That is something you can take, and even if you're a 3-0, apply it right now.
Well, I'll tell you, it took me I went through this a little bit as a junior and even early in college. My coach at the time helped me kind of see what was happening. But I would always, I would hit a flat serve, but then I would throw up a change up. And my change up would be like, I would kick T on the deuce court, which is like a go-to second serve, which is fine because you're just initiating player on the weaker side. But I would do it on the first serve, right? Because I'm like, man, his backhand return's weak. Like, I'm going to initiate play there. But recognize that when you take this ball to the backhand, the easiest place for them to hit back is going, because it's in their body. When they uncoil, they're going to pull the ball back to this sector of the court. Right. So although I targeted their weaker side, guess what happens?
The point's neutral now.
The point's neutral because I'm hitting my mediocre backhand. It's all about centralizing weapons, and I want a forehand on this next ball, right? So hitting my serve out wide is going to help ensure I get my forehand. So what is the missing link? What do you think? Like, if there's one thing somebody was to work on, what is the one thing they have to utilize this
slice
pattern?
Serve out wide.
Slice serve out wide.
All day.
Right? That's the ticket, guys. Slice serve out wide is the secret to this.
And it doesn't have to be like a 5-0 level slice serve out wide. It doesn't have to be 100 miles an hour. If your ball just breaks and pulls your opponent off the court and it's got enough pace where they're not taking it as an approach shot and coming to the net, all you got to do is wait for a ball to bounce anywhere that isn't here or here, and you're immediately on offense. So that's the first pattern I wanted to introduce. Edmund, no worries, man. Happy to help. Our girl, Jessica Flagg. Jessica Flagg is going to be in our next commercial that may go viral. So you're going to actually get
It's probably not Jessica. It's probably one of the boys.
It's probably Dave or Dom or, well, whoever from the Flagg family's here. Thank you
for the hospitality this weekend, Flaggy.
I'm going to let you cover this super quickly. And I know real quick also before I pull that up. So if you're liking this stuff and you're like, man, like that worked, that makes a ton of sense. Inside of Plus, there is a single strategy and tactics course that takes like a deep dive. And most of the stuff we coach, our sort of shtick is to try not to confuse the heck out of you, right? Like we try and take stuff that we know when we showed our high level players or our rec level players, they were like, whoa, that's the stuff that we put in these courses. So when you go in there and check that out, I think you're going to find a lot of stuff like this that's going to help. So if you're a Plus member, put on a Post-it note on your desk or wherever you're watching from, check that thing out. You're going to get a lot more stuff than what we cover here tonight in that course. If you're not a Plus member, you're messing up. So go sign up. All right. Fair enough. One question from Tracy. Does this strategy somewhat apply to doubles as well? I'm going to tell you how it applies to doubles. It's slightly different. What we like about serving up the tee in doubles, which is kind of the opposite, is that it gets your partner involved up at the net. Yeah. So to some degree, this is mirrored in the opposite direction. Like serving out wide in doubles actually pins your partner more to their alley and creates almost a guaranteed cross-court rally for you. So in doubles, and there's a lot, again, there's a doubles strategy course inside your Plus dashboard too. So if you want a lot more detail on that, check that out. But the basic concept here, and I could talk about this for hours, but the basic rule of thumb is that when I'm serving in doubles, if I want my partner to get involved up at the net, I'm actually going to serve to the tee. And if I don't want them to get involved at the net, I'm going to serve out wide.
The exception is if you just have a nasty can opener, right? So, I mean, Scott and I both really like our slice out wide serves. So we'll use it quite a bit because it makes it really, really difficult for the returner to get the ball around the net. Around the net player rather, but think of it more of a change up. Remember what I was saying about the backhand uncoiling, it comes to this part of the court that helps my net player get in play. But with every pitch, you've got to have a counter. Right. So that slice can help, but you can't stay on it because otherwise they start adapting to it.
Cool. All right, Tracy, hopefully that answers your question. And again, I assume if you're a Plus member, go check that doubles course out. I'll give you all the answers to how to deal with stuff doubles related. Guys, also the amount of questions that are flowing in here from all these different platforms, there's no way we can possibly keep up. So we're not ignoring you. We see you. We're going to do the best we can to address as many as possible. Brian says, this is great. Nobody really taught percentage tennis when I was coming up. I think that's true. I think this is something that's so simple that once you know it, you're just going to know when to play offense and when to play defense. And this is a simple pattern. You can kind of automatically implement into your game right away. So same concept applies on the ad side. serve out wide. Again, this box would just mirror, these things would just flip-flop. And again, if you got anything sort of in the middle third of the court or that outside, you would be ripping with your forehand into the open court space as a right-handed player. So hopefully that helps. Now it's time for you to blow their mind with some more advanced stuff. Yeah. Do you want me to clean up?
You hyped it up so much that there can only be disappointment. I got you.
While Nate cleans up, if you guys have any final questions on this stuff, go ahead and fire away. We are on a slight delay here, so.
Oh, I erased those. I didn't mean to.
Such a jerk face. This is why I can't have nice things. All right, Albert Madden says, so does that mean I should try to return to the middle third after every hit? So, Albert, it actually means the opposite, right? You don't want your opponent to be in the middle third of the court on offense. Your goal really, once you get to a high enough level, 3-0, 3-5, should always be keep the ball in these outer thirds of the court where your opponent is constantly on defense. When we talk about a neutral tennis point, that would be two players hitting the ball back and forth between these two sections in the middle of the court. When we talk about being on offense, that would mean you're in the middle and your opponent's out wide. And we talk about being on defense, that would mean your opponent is in the middle and you're on the outer thirds.
Is this for the return?
That was just, he was asking, so should he try to return to the mid third after every hit? So it depends where the serve is struck, right? If you're pulled out wide, your only option is that box, right? Or high, right? We talked about like high down the line if you need a reset ball. Yeah. If the ball struck up the tee, again, that actually pulled you into the middle of the court, and now you're technically on offense. So when the ball served to the middle of the court, that's where you can sort of pick and choose where you want to play. So this is another reason why we really say, hey, serve out wide because you're handcuffing your opponent. You serve up the tee, if it doesn't do damage, they can kind of hit really wherever they want, and you could be in trouble.
They could implement the battering ram as well, though, yeah?
That's true. So let's get into some more advanced stuff like that really quick. Just trying to give you guys shout outs as much as I can. I can't pronounce this, but they said most of my breakfasts are consumed with your videos. Thanks and greetings from Poland. Very cool.
Oh,
thanks.
Wow.
Thanks for watching all the way from Poland.
I hope you keep your breakfast down after all of Scott's horrendous jokes.
That's true. Or Nate's horrendous face.
See, I didn't go there. That's low-hanging fruit. I was going to say it, and then I was like, it's just I'm just nicer than you are.
All right. Let's hand it over to Nate Dogg here. He's going to bring you on a more sophisticated tactical journey than I ever could.
Well, let's go back to the question on the return. So what we were talking about with the battering ram is something that applies into the building phase as well. So going back to the return, anytime you're hitting short on a return, you're in trouble, right? Because you're allowing your player to centralize their weapon. They can move around their backhand to create a forehand, to create angles. So this is a no-no spot, right? In fact, most of this is. But if you can consistently hit deep, this is the battering ram, right?
Battering ram means deep through the middle of the court, for those of you confused.
Yeah. So it's anything in this section here, right? That is where if I've hit the serve and the return comes back here, when it's deep through the middle, it takes away all the angles. So it's very, very hard for this person to play any offense. It almost starts neutral.
And we talked about offense is when you can set your feet, plant, transfer your weight. If you're hitting off your back foot because your opponent returned deep to the middle of the court, that's not offense. Remember, back here, we're still on defense.
Yep. So what Scott was alluding to is that this is risk reward. If you can consistently get in it deep, it's the best place you can possibly return, unless you're just going for like an outright winner. Yep. However, if you fall short, you've also given them the easiest possible third ball for them to attack.
High risk, high reward. So this is why we don't coach it unless you're a higher level of play, really, right?
Right. So with that being said, though, once we get into a singles point, so let's talk about like what building is. There's different phases of a point. And building is once we've gone neutral. So there's the serve, there's the return, and at some point, somebody has hit deep, and then the other person has hit deep. We are just neutral, and that is the building phase. We're trying to play for depth, mixing up spin, variety, pace, whatever it might be that takes time away from the opponent.
Real quick, Adam said, isn't that no man's land? Yes.
You're talking about breaking down weak? Yeah, that's why, that's essentially where we just don't want the ball to be landing. Right. Okay. So now that we're in this building phase, one of the strategies that gets overlooked the most is hitting big through the middle of the court. And remember, We're talking about with depth, right? So we need the ball to land somewhere in this vicinity. Okay. All right. And it seems kind of basic, but it doesn't happen enough. When you watch the pros warm up, after they go short court, the first thing they do is establish depth through the middle because it's a phenomenal neutral ball. But here's the part that I think at the recreational level, and when I say recreational, I mean like athletic adult level, right? Like there's a lot of us.
I'm a rec player now.
Yeah. I mean, we all are. Nobody's getting paid to play tournaments, right? It's just easier to signify with recreational play. But we don't use this enough because we feel like we're not doing enough because we're just hitting through the middle. Here's the really cool part. When you hit really deep through the middle, like I said, you take away angles. And so this player sometimes feels like, I'm getting the ball right down the middle. I should be doing something with it, right? But if it's deep, they shouldn't. They should be going back and trying to fight for depth over direction.
Tricking them to play offense from what we know now is actually a defensive position. And that is where all errors, really up until you're watching guys on TV, guys and gals on TV play, most points end because a player is making a mistake because they're trying to play offense when they're on defense.
Yeah. And this is what I see the most. And this is Ryan, really high level junior. This is the only way I can even hang into a point with him because if I hit anywhere on the outer thirds,
it's a winner.
He kills it, right? So what he often does is gets impatient. He finds his forehand. He's late, and he pulls his forehand wide, right? Just playing for depth. That's all I'm doing, right? So it's just a cool strategy. It seems so basic, and it's so overlooked. All right, so let's talk about – you got a question? I heard you take a deep breath.
Quick question.
Okay.
Edmund would like to know any advice on minimizing unforced errors while aiming for battering ram shots.
Say it one more time. I'm sorry.
Any advice on minimizing unforced errors while aiming for battering ram shots?
Yeah, so I have a rule I call 4x4. All right, so at least 4 feet above the net and at least 4 feet away from the lines.
Yeah, so the target here, to be clear, is not here.
Yeah.
It's here, right? That gives you plenty of space to have some margin for error, Edmund. If you're missing, you can still hit the ball in the court, right?
Yeah, so 4x4. That's what I would suggest. Plenty of top spin, right? Focus. You can shape where you can get under the ball, but that allows them to shape. What I mean is like kind of that high loopy ball. We're going to get into some of those strategies in a little bit, but like driving, going through the ball at the apex with spin. So after this secondary pattern, if it's like, all right, they're really good at this too. The next thing that we're going to look to do is what we call the cage, right? And this is what we see that's really taking effect in the 90s and through to 2000s. To me, this is the biggest difference in the game.
This is Nate's favorite strategy, so
it is my favorite strategy.
You should hear him talk passionately about it.
It's why I was able to play collegiately and at a high level was because of this one pattern. I didn't have a great back end, and this is what I did. But this is what we see Rafa do. It's what we see Roger do. It is the adapted form of play now. But essentially, it's the minute that I can centralize a forehand on the left side of the court as a righty, on the right side of the court as a lefty. All right, so from here, I'm looking at a forehand. I want to now establish what we call the cage. And the cage is when I'm hitting really deep and heavy into this sector. And what ends up happening, let me step out of the way. What ends up happening with the cage is I've isolated the weaker stroke, right? Backhand. I got the backhand over here. That's a racket. I don't know. All right. So they're lefty, this strategy changes. But from here now, when I've got my forehand established over here and I've got that weaker side in the cage, it looks like the line is open, but this is fool's gold because this is going to be the absolute hardest shot for them to hit, especially if I'm hitting big and heavy.
And if you go back to less sophisticated instruction, it violates the very basic rule of you're on defense, hitting down the line is offense. Stop that. You're not supposed to do that, right? When you're on defense, that ball is supposed to go cross court or high. So you're tempting them to take, as Nate calls it, the fool's gold of attempting to hit the ball down the line.
Yeah. So what we end up doing here is either we win the battle of shot tolerance, right? So this is assuming that I can hit my forehand more times than Scott can hit his backhand. You got a pretty good backhand, so I don't know. But for most players, their backhand is their much, much weaker side, right? So if I can hit 5 forehands, I know on the 5th ball, he's missing his backhand. She's missing her backhand. All right. Now, if their shot tolerance is fairly good, but their backhand is just not particularly strong, meaning it's not a weapon, what ends up happening is that what we see Federer often doing is that as I step around this ball, I can redirect and go down the line. Okay. And now as I've gone down the line, this person has gotten used to hitting 3 or 4 backhands. So guess what they're doing? They're trying to make their they're trying to make their backhand easier. So they're like, oh, he's just going to keep hitting in my backhand. So their space starts to stay further from center. And this is what's pertinent on this play. When you decide to go inside in, you've got to follow your ball. All right. Because this is why if you stay here and this person has wheels, they're going to beat you on the cross court. But if you follow it in, follow the ball, act like you're tethered to it, and this person is going to want to go down the line. It's easier to hit the ball down the line or in the full sprint than it is cross court. Remember that. So what you're going to do is you're going to come in, you're going to force them into the cross court, and you're 2 steps away from pinching it off and putting the ball away.
So can I give a simplified recap?
Yeah.
So what Nate's done here, and we're talking, and I know lefties, I apologize. I know we always talk in terms of right-handed players, and for that I apologize. But in this scenario, Nate is a right-handed player down here. This gentleman right here, he's moving around his backhand and putting his opponent in what is called the cage, where he is hitting inside-out forehands heavy, where that player is trapped because they can't get around their backhand. So now he's got a strong inside-out forehand to a cross-court backhand. He's going to keep them, and the reason we call it the cage is they're trapped there until we let them out, right? Until he makes a change of direction, you can just keep pummeling their backhand until they either miss, hit short, or until you feel like you've opened up enough space to bring that ball down the line. And as Nate just said, you're going to shadow that into the net and cover your line, since that's going to be the logical place for them to rip.
All right, so we're going to go one more level on this particular strategy now. So we have the battering rim playing deep through the center. We have the cage pinning them to their weaker side. And so now what we're going to talk about is actually playing their strength to expose their weakness. If you wonder why Novak Djokovic is the most dominant player currently, not always, but over the last few years, been holding on to that #1 spot. I'm not a big Novak guy, but hey, the dude is.
I like him. He's really
a hell of a player.
He's good at hitting people in the throat with stuff too. I don't know if you caught that. Yeah, I mean, like just straight shot right to the throat. He's good at that also.
I didn't think we were going.
I really liked his game, but he's like, it's like hard to say you're a Djokovic fan the last 18 months. He just keeps doing dumb things.
He may end up being the GOAT, so you better appreciate his ability.
That would be a good way to round out 2020 and 2021 if Novak just swept and was all of a sudden the greatest tennis player of all time, undisputed.
Maybe. All right, so let's talk about what happens here. So something that happens too often is this player just looks to attack a weakness. So we'll go righties again. All right, and for you lefties out there, if you watch Nadal, right, like that's everything you need to know. If you're a lefty,
when in doubt, do what Nadal does, except follow through like this.
If you're a lefty, hit the ball to the backhand and then establish this side of the court, right? And from here, there's all kinds of nasty lefty angles. All right, but let's talk about this, about isolating or playing the strength to expose the weakness. So in this pattern, what we want to do is that when we're getting in these exchanges, at some point, especially when I get a ball maybe out here, right, on this part of the court, and as I can move, I can get my feet inside the baseline. The temptation is because I know this person has a weak backhand, I want to play the ball here, right? I'm going to take these other lines off, sorry, because I know that's probably getting confusing, guys, sorry. Hold on a second.
While Nate's cleaning that up, I'm going to answer this question real quick because 2 or 3 people have asked this because they're in other time zones, other parts of the world. Yes, there is a recording of this that lives inside of your PlayYourCourt Plus dashboard. We take them down off of Facebook and off of YouTube because the recordings of these, one of the benefits of being a Plus member is the recording of what we're coaching tonight is in your dashboard there. So yes, if you're a Plus member, there is a recording of this. If you need to leave or, came in late, you can see the whole thing inside your Plus dashboard. Sorry. We usually get it in there like 4 or 5 days after the live stream.
Yeah.
Carry on.
All right. Well, thank you.
We got to ask like 7 times.
So here, as I was saying, man, you made me pause.
Sorry.
I was
make you nervous?
I was in it. I was in it. Nah, I got it. All right. So from here, the temptation is that this player has a weak backhand, right? Weak backhand. WB, weak backhand. The temptation is when we get this ball is to play it over to this backhand side. But because they have a weak backhand, they've been playing with a weak backhand for a long, long, long time. And they've gotten rather efficient at defending it. They've also had the tendency to lean on this side. So what that means is that maybe they've developed a slice and they're always neutralizing back over this way. So this is what Novak does. So not that Roger has a weak backhand or whoever else he may play, but it's definitely weaker than his forehand. So here they're actually playing the forehand, but they're looking to play on the outer thirds because this person has a weak backhand, but they have a really, really weak running backhand, right? So
I've got to highlight this and make sure you guys hear this because, like, if you learn nothing else from today, this, no matter what your skill level is absolutely enormous. Simply put, if you're trying to target your opponent's weakness, hit strong to their strength to open that weakness up more, right? Like, as Nate's saying, if you have a weak backhand, it's not weak in a rally ball in the middle third of the court. It's really, really weak on a full-out sprint after they got a forehand.
It's this.
Right.
It's like, okay, now I've got to run at this backhand. That's a huge, huge problem.
And most people don't get that. Most players say, he's got a weak backhand. I'm just going to keep hitting to his backhand. Well, you'll see a lot more misses out of that weak backhand if you can get him out of position by hitting strong to his forehand side first. Drop in the comment section if that makes sense. Just drop, I got it. Because this is like, if there's one thing you took away from this training, I want to make sure you get that. And I want to hear from you guys. I'm getting kind of lonely listening to Nate talk. So drop something in the comment section just to make sure you guys understand that. It's really important.
So I'll show you Novak's pattern, right? So this is what we see with Federer and Novak. They get in these exchanges. And so because Novak has the best backhand in the world, that's a fact, right? Like, you can debate it. Like, there's some major upside on some one-handers. I mean, man, when Wawrinka or Team or these guys really get their backhand going, amazing, right? But as far as a consistent weapon, a two-hander from Novak is world-class, probably the best, right? But so what ends up happening is when they get in these cross-court rallies off the forehand, eventually Novak is going to play one here, right? And so Federer covers the backhand, and most of the time we know that Federer will chip back over here. And that's exactly what Novak wants him to do. Because at this point, Roger's always looking for the cage. He's always looking. This is where he shoots from. Forehand, left of center. The problem is that Novak has the
I also like to point out that Nate's just called Roger Federer a weak backhand.
No, I said that dude. Yeah, I mean,
you wrote it on his face.
That was the previous guy. This guy. This would be
a
like,
different world-class tennis player.
This guy would be like it stands for weaker backhand than the forehand, right? But so here's what ends up happening. Novak has the best down the line backhand in the world, right? So this pattern is no good for Roger. It ends up putting Roger on the dead run to his forehand, which, so even if he gets his ball back, he's in a lot of trouble now to that weaker side.
Yep.
All right. And I'm a Fed guy. A lot of you know that. That's my guy, right? But man, this pattern, this is the one that Roger has to figure out if he's going to take down Novak.
Yeah. And it gets harder to figure out with each year of age you add on to those knees, unfortunately.
No doubt.
Yeah. Cool. You have anything else you want to add here? We've delivered a lot of hopefully knowledge bombs that you guys are enjoying. You want to open the floor for questions? We've got about 175 people in here, so I'm sure there's some questions that I've missed.
Yeah, let's go questions, and then maybe we'll wrap up. We'll go quickly on how to beat a pusher.
Yeah, I love that.
Baller,
yeah, so
it might be.
drop your questions here in the chat if you have any. I'm getting a lot now. I'm seeing all these. It sounds like everybody understands. Susan, Ryan, Robert, Tone Deaf Teens, Hands Up Holidays, Edmund, Richard. It seems like you guys all understand that to expose a player's weaker side, you hit strong to their strength first. All right. Grip for waiting to return serve. Dibs.
I didn't even hear what the question was.
So Lance wants to know, what grip should you be holding when you're waiting to return serve? This is actually my favorite instruction to deliver, because if you're doing it wrong, it makes your life so much better instantly. So I'm not going to get in a debate as to what you should use on your forehand or your backhand. But what I will tell you confidently is that whatever your forehand grip is, whatever grip you're holding the racket when you hit your forehand, that's got to be the bottom hand of your ready position. All right. If you hit a two-handed backhand, whatever your top hand is doing, when you hit a two-handed backhand, that's got to be the other hand of your ready position. So I'm waiting with my forehand grip on bottom and my backhand grip on top. If you've got a one-handed backhand, then you're just going to slide up to the throat. The reason this matters so much is this. If you get a forehand, you can just let go and rip. If you get a backhand and you have a two-hander, the top hand should be doing all of the work. This is instruction you'll see in any of our YouTube videos or inside of the platform. When we're talking about correct technique on a two-handed backhand, the top hand should be doing all of the work. So the grip on the top hand matters a lot more. And when you rotate back to hit your backhand, that bottom hand will naturally slide into whatever position it should be in. But when you're in ready position waiting for the serve, bottom hand's got to be forehand. Top hand's got to be the top hand of your backhand grip if you're a two-hander. If you're a one-hander, slide to the throat, and that hand will help you make that transition back on a return of serve with the one-handed backhand. So, Lance, hopefully that helps.
Good stuff, man.
Let's see here. What else do we have? How to beat someone who hits drop shots.
So here, you're not, well, yeah, this is the right answer, but it may not be exactly what you're looking for. So somebody that hits drop shots, it's not necessarily how you beat them, it's how you stop allowing them to hit drop shots.
Yep.
Right. So like if
it's not correction, it's prevention.
Yeah, if the person hitting drop shots successfully, that means they're getting their feet inside the baseline.
It also means they're probably in the middle third of the court. It's very difficult to hit drop shots long distances because you see the drop shot coming from further away and you can run up and get it. So the answer, truly, to simplify, and I just completely took this away from you somehow, I'm really sorry.
Most things in life.
Yeah, you know, if it's joyous, just take it away.
Give me that.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to stay out of the middle third of the court. You got to push them off the baseline. Those, you know, if you do that, they're hitting drop shots from bad places to hit drop shots from, and they won't be as effective.
And I'll mention too, it's really hard to hit drop shots from up high, right? Like we kind of want them shoulder level or below. So playing with big, heavy top spin, make them try to hit drop shots from way up here. If you play with a lot of slice, or perhaps you play with an Eastern or Continental grip and you hit the ball flat, it's going to be easier for them. So maybe try to adjust and get more spin on that ball.
Cool. I'll go to Edmund again. Edmund, we're giving you a lot of love, man. I hope you're enjoying it. Any advice for how to maximize the utility of a 3-5 level serve? Hit out wide more. It's really that simple for me. If you're playing singles, the more you can get the ball out wide and let your opponent make that mistake of not hitting cross court and take control of the point, you're going to see the biggest win there. So that's the big takeaway I would have there. And along these same lines, Shirag, I'm sure I'm butchering your name, man. I'm sorry. But going into a match, what should be your plan A? My honest opinion is try and work the outer thirds of the court with Nate's 4x4 strategy, giving yourself good margins for error. And you should have in the warm-up felt out, you know, where you're seeing weaknesses and adjust these patterns of play accordingly. If you see that they've got a really weak backhand, all these patterns should be geared towards waiting till that ball comes to the middle third of the court to put them in the cage and trap their backhand, or to hit strong to their forehand to expose their backhand. So hopefully that helps. Do you have anything you want to add?
I would just say anytime we get on the court, you want to establish your own confidence, right? So like go for big targets. Make sure you're giving yourself plenty of room for error. Always look for the weakness. You know, at the end of the day, if the person can't hit 3 backhands, your goal is to make them hit 4 backhands, right?
Right.
Like it's very, very, that's plan A. So plan B would become more complicated to where Scott just said cage, or perhaps hitting to their strength to isolate the weakness.
People really need to hear that again too. Like if your cross-court forehand is better than your opponent's cross-court forehand, your strategy should be to get in cross-court forehand rallies. Yeah. If your cross-court backhand, same thing applies. If both of your ground strokes are weaker than both of their ground strokes, you're either coming to the net, you're bringing them to the net, or you're taking more risk than what we've talked about here, because otherwise you're going to lose.
And we know why it doesn't happen more, right? It's like, as humans, we like to do
it my way.
The way, yeah. And I'm horribly guilty of this. I think my forehand's better than most people's. So I'm like, I'm gonna hit the shots that I want to hit because that's how I enjoy the game. And then I'll have somebody be like, hey, they can't hit a volley. Like, you should have probably just brought them in more. And I'm like, yeah, but I wanted to rip my forehand. You run into that. Scott tries to hit with my forehand because he thinks his forehand's really good. It's a losing proposition. I mean,
I just want to show him that I can, break down his only strength.
Wow. Wow, that didn't go like I thought.
Yeah. Happy New Year, Nate. But yeah, going into a match, I will say addressing the warm-up again, like rec players along these same lines of what you're talking about, we're so worried about what we're doing. Like I've asked a lot of my players that are playing in tournaments, like, so what did you learn from the warm-up? And they're like, well, my backhand's really inconsistent. I'm like, why are you paying attention to anything you have going on in the warm-up? Yeah. That would be like if you're getting ready to go to war and for 5 minutes, you could take a look at like the other general's playbook. Be like, oh, looks like he's going to probably attack me with that forehand bomb because his backhand army is really weak.
Yeah, that's
right. Like, so make sure in the warm up you're paying attention. That's where all of these tactics begin. Like, it's not rinse repeat. It's not one size fits all. You're going to apply general concepts that we talked about here to pick apart the weaknesses you identify in your opponent. Hopefully in the warm up, or if you've played him before, maybe you already know. Like Nate knows my backhand volley is a problem.
It's better. We've been working on it.
It is better. Yeah. It is better.
See, I'm all about positivity in 2021.
There you go. I'm all about just gaining weight and drinking still. Alina wants to know when to come in on singles if you don't have a good drop shot. We've kind of just covered this a little bit, and I know she asked this before we gave the last section, but I'll recoup here. Remember, your goal is to do damage until you force your opponent to hit short or inside the baseline with not enough pace where you feel like you can attack. So the time to come in is where you feel like you really can do damage with that ball, or when your opponent's invited you in with a short approach shot. I don't know that it needs to be a whole lot more sophisticated, but if you have anything.
Yeah, I would say, a lot of those approach shots, make sure you're hitting them down the line. It's the shortest part of the court. It's going to get to them faster. Always follow the path of your ball. Yep. Always. If you go down the line, follow the ball, pass the line, hit the split step. If they go cross court, you can cover it. Can you go cross court? Yep. But you should be using it on a short angle. Going deep cross court is a no-no. Coming in net.
And when you see your opponent out of position, right? If they're out of position and they hit short, then fine. Into open court space, cross court approach shots are more tolerable for us as coaches.
Yeah.
One more question here, and then we will probably go ahead and wrap it up. Do you want to do a quick little explanation on how to beat the pusher? I know that's what everybody on here wants to know. I'm going to answer one more question, and then guys, keep them flowing. We'll do a quick little segment here on how to beat the pusher, and then we'll answer any of the questions that we see you leave now. So we'll answer one more here, and then we'll dive into how to beat the pusher, and then we'll field a couple more questions here, and then we'll bid you adieu. That's not what I meant to click, but thank you, Shirag.
Thank you.
Rusty wants to know, when serving out wide, should you serve in volley? If so, what area should you go to? Do you want me to field this in a quick capacity? So you should only serve in volley if it's premeditated. So meaning it's just your strategy. I'm thinking I'm going to hit a strong enough serve to do damage, and I'm going to come in, or I'm going to mix it up and surprise them by showing up to the net. If you've premeditated it, then yes. The other time would be if you see or you feel, even as the ball comes off your racket, oh, that's going to do damage. They're going to be reaching.
Yeah.
That's when I like to see you sneak in as well. But otherwise, it should be premeditated and based on, just general strategy in your match. If you think serving and volleying is the style that's going to beat that player, then for sure. But if not, it doesn't really matter as much target area if it's premeditated.
As far as a go-to strategy, though, I would avoid consistently going out wide. It's like Scott said, if I know I have a nasty can opener and they're consistently going down the line with it, I'll follow it in because I know where the ball is probably going. The problem is with going cross court or hitting a serve out wide, going cross court, angles create angles. So when you pull them out wide, they have multiple options on how to get the ball around you. Remember what Scott said earlier about in double strategy, if you keep the ball through the middle of the court, it's really difficult for them to play the ball anywhere but through the middle of the court. So body serves and tees are going to be the most useful for serve and volley. Think Edberg, right? Tim Hinman. Think about how many times they used their kick serve through the tee or through a body serve and came in. What are you laughing at?
You want to answer that one?
How many miles per hour do those beards add to your serves? All of the mile per hours.
3 to 4 miles per hour. Yeah,
I
fun
just
fact.
trim mine. Yeah, Jade's my wife. She was like, "Hey, maybe trim it up," and she's never said that. She digs the beard.
It's like, I don't know if you guys have noticed, it's the year of the long hair. We're growing long hair right now for some reason. Also, it's like impossible to get your hair cut.
Yeah, my barber got closed down. I'm bummed.
All right.
Pusher. You're going to sign off, weren't you?
No, I was going to say it's time. It's time for you to deliver the knowledge bomb that everyone wants to hear. Rusty, thank you. How do you beat a pusher, Nate?
All right, so I'm going to make this. There's so much instruction out there about how to beat the pusher. I'm going to tell you 2 ways. And the first one is what everybody tells you.
I wanted to be like, sorry, you can't see this unless you're in the PlayYourCourt community, but I'll hold off on my sales hat for a few minutes.
Sign up for Plus.
That's right.
Just kidding. Just kidding. No. So playing the pusher, this is what everybody's going to tell you. And it is. I mean, if you look at 12 and under boys and girls, this is what they have to learn to do. What ends up happening is that when you play points with the pusher, inevitably when you attack, they loop. Right? Their ball comes back like this, right? So it bounces there, but by the time you receive it, you're way back there. So what you're going to be told is, hey, move in and take it as a volley, right? Take it as a volley or a swing volley. Swing volleys, I mean, this is really where swing volleys started coming in. We see it more than ever in women's tennis in the WTA, right? If somebody defends with a high loop, they come in, they rock the swing volley, hence Serena and Halep and Osaka. All right, but so here's the problem with this. It's a great strategy if you've got a really good volley, swing volley, or overhead. But as soon as you hit this ball, let's just say you take the swing volley over here. I need my rag. Sorry.
Shouldn't have thrown it at the camera in a festive-like manner.
It was a little bit festive, wasn't it? All right, but here's the problem.
Sign up for Plus.
So you hit this ball, right? There's the push. It's a big lob. You hit the ball over here. Well, what's coming back? Another lob. Right? So now you're hitting an overhead. They're going to run that down. What's coming back? Another lob. Right? So you've got to have really good overheads.
Day. It's the worst.
Yeah.
This is annoying.
You've got to have really, really good overheads and swing volleys, transition volleys in order to win that way.
And it just gets harder in the elements, which is why pushers do so well on a sunny or windy day.
Yeah, for sure. And it's 100% right. And it's why, like, you know, sometimes I'll hear like, oh, he hasn't or she hasn't lost a match at 4-5 in 2 years, and they're an amazing pusher. But then they go up to 5-0 and they can't win a match, or even at 3-5, 4-0, whatever it might be, because at 5-0, people don't miss overheads.
Yeah,
people put overheads away the first try, right?
And they know how to do damage by locking them in the cage and generating that short ball, and we start to hit winners at that level.
Yeah, and you know, same thing with like the 4-0, 3-5 differential. The levels go up, right? So here's our go-to strategy. You get in this big, long play, right? It becomes really, really difficult to do anything but hit deep because they're keeping the ball deep. We know that shapes produce shapes. It's what we want to do. So here's how you break a pusher every single time. They serve. Ball goes here. This is your best opportunity to attack. All right. So
draw that a little thicker.
Yeah, sorry. So we know that most pushers and junk ballers don't like the net. So what you're going to do is you're going to bring them in off the return of serve. You're going to hit low slice in one of these spaces.
We have a video on this inside the platform called Dinkum and Dunkum, I believe.
You got it.
You should check out. Do me a favor. I'm gonna interrupt and I'm gonna pitch you what we sell, because why would I not? Yeah. Right? Look, do us a favor. So this is a good time. We built something called the PlayYourCourt community. The idea behind it is the number one reason people quit tennis because they can't find somebody to play with. If you're not in that thing right now, we price it at $5.99 a month so that literally anybody that can afford a tennis racket anywhere in the world can join it. And when you get in there, if you want to do Plus, that's great. Plus is $120 a year. It's more expensive. I get there's resistance there. But if you're not in our base level membership, do us a favor. Go to PlayYourCourt.com right now. Sign up for that thing, man. It is $5.99 a month. There's videos based on your specific skill level in there for anything you could ever need. So like the idea is we want to give you everything you can to play more tennis. We help you meet new players in your area, improve your game. We help you with video coaching, and it's not a generic YouTube video, and we release those, so I'm not, poo-pooing them. when you're on YouTube, whoever's teaching that instruction, ourselves included, we have no idea how good you are. Like the instruction I'm going to give a 2.5 is not the same as a 4.5. So inside this community on the video component, we're going to know what your skill level is. You're going to take a self-assessment. Your rating is going to go up and down based on matches you play against people inside the community. And they're actually going to give you instruction based on exactly what you have going on. So if you're a 4.0, you're going to get the instruction that 4.0s would get if they were on court with us. You're not going to get a generic, hey, here's how you add more topspin to your forehand, or here's how you hit your serve harder. Like that instruction's different based on where you are. So I know this is a shameless plug, but seriously, like our goal and our vision and our mission for the next 3 years is to build the biggest tennis community in the world. We've already got a ton of people in there. I think we're in like 75 countries now. If you live anywhere near a major city, there are tons of players in there that you can meet. And the video instruction alone, I think, is probably going to make you happy for $5.99 a month. Lastly, I know this is a hardcore plug.
Go for it, buddy.
There's deals there's deals and discounts in there that cover the cost of your membership. So the idea is you join here. We're partners with Wilson. We're partners with Tennis Express. We're partners with all kinds of recovery equipment. Like
Hyper Ice, man.
If you buy tennis balls, tennis rackets, tennis shoes, bags, you're going to save more in the first month than you're going to pay in 3 years of being inside of this thing. So please, I appreciate you guys sitting through my pitch, but if you're not in there, this is our bread and butter. This is our vision. We want to build the hugest, biggest tennis community out there. We can't do it unless every single person that attends this live stream jumps in there and signs up. And even if you live in Brazil in like a tiny neighborhood that has no other players in it, I promise you, you're going to get value from the other pieces of the community well in excess of $5.99 a month. So go check that out. Mic drop. I'm going to stop trying to sell stuff, but this is something we truly care about. It's not a money maker for us. It's just, this is our plan, man. We want to get more people playing tennis. We want it to be cool like it was when we were watching Agassi and Sampras in the 90s. So just trying to get a lot more people playing.
Everybody was playing.
We're getting a ton of people in here being like, I'm already in. I found lots of people to play with. So thank you guys who are already in there. But if you're not, if you've gotten any value from this, do us a favor, jump in there and sign up. Carry on, beat the pushers. Sorry.
If you're ready for Scott to stop talking, type.
Yeah, you'll never have to hear
huge.
me. Yeah, you'll never. Yeah.
It's a huge. Huge. I couldn't stop as soon as I started laughing. It's huge.
I'm so passionate about it. I can't help it.
I love it, dude. All right, so the dinkum dunkum to finish him off. It's almost like reverse where you should hold your serve. You should be breaking them every time. Every time they serve, short slice. Don't try to make it perfect. Give some slice, a little bit of height. The slice will do the rest and bite. This person, the pusher, junk baller, does not want to be at net. Now, if they're a true junk baller, they can get pretty handsy up there at the net. That's at a little bit higher level. But so that's the dink. You follow your ball, and this is where the dunk happens. Because as they try to play around you in either direction, or even go
while
over
they're
you,
running and reaching, right?
Yeah, that's
very hard to do a lot of damage from there.
You're anticipating, right? And you're shifting to wherever you see the ball go, right? Whatever side the racket goes to, you're shifting. And this is the dunk. You have the whole court to bring them open. So what you're doing is you're taking away their primary pattern of hitting that big high.
You're looking at this like you needed the racket.
Nah,
Sorry,
hitting that big high looper, right? You're just taking that away from them. Bring them in with short chips. If you get stuck in those big, long, high rallies, then take the swing volleys, transition volleys, and get to the net.
Cool.
But that's what I got.
Let's open it up for questions. The other thing, too, I'll just bring this up. Like, drop some questions in here about pushers or anything else that you have before we shut it down. We'll answer as many as we can. One thing to remember when you're playing pushers, they don't do a lot of damage, right? Like, by the nature of the way they play, they just kind of get the ball back. So don't be impatient. Wait until you've got that ball in the middle third of the court to dink them and dunk them, or to try to hit an aggressive ball down the line and sneak to the net. Just realize, I think a lot of people stress out when they see a pusher's name next to theirs on a draw. They're thinking, oh my gosh, like here comes a marathon. But yeah, here comes a marathon of somebody not hitting winners on you and literally just giving the match to you and you either beating yourself or not, right? So think about this and really realize playing pushers shouldn't be that stressful with the right strategy. If you know that you're going to be on offense, as often as you make good decisions, they're not quite as scary to play against. So if you can rid this, mentality of pushers really hard to beat, and come in with a positive attitude of I'm just going to be really patient. I'm going to let the point, wear on and wait till that ball's in the middle third to start making some of these strategies make sense. Then I think it's going to be a lot less scary.
You're not scary. I'm not scared of
That's
you.
not nice. Pushers don't serve 130 miles an hour.
Neither do you.
It's not nice either.
Layup.
I definitely don't with two
To the rack.
herniated discs.
Yeah, maybe you used to. Not anymore, old feller.
Before Nate makes fun of me more, we're going to address some questions. Let's see here. There's a guy in my 3-5 league that rarely loses in singles, and his main play is hitting lobs deep, and people get tired and make mistakes. Nobody at my level can consistently hit overheads to win. So, Omar, that's exactly what we're talking about, man. That's what we got going on. Let's see here. A lot of thank yous. Loving the beards. Thank you, Thomas.
Hey, thanks.
I know how you feel about tennis. Used to be lots of tennis going on here in San Antonio. How do you beat an aggressive baseliner? From Ryan Fishman. You want to field this one quickly?
You want to take it? I can take it. Do you want to take it?
Yeah, I'll take it.
I'll help you out if you.
No, I know how to teach tennis, Nate. Gosh. He's really like throwing me off here. He's making fun of my serves, making fun of my ground strokes.
Typically, it's Scott giving me a hard time, but I'm feeling froggy tonight.
Drop a comment that says play if you want to see Nate and I play 2 out of 3 on YouTube.
Ooh,
and the loser has to shave their beard.
Well, fine.
Oh.
You got to be able to walk.
That's true. Yeah. I'm making this challenge with a bum knee and 2 herniated discs on my back, so I'm probably going to be beardless here pretty soon. All right, so back to Ryan. How do you beat an aggressive baseliner? So an aggressive baseliner they're not immune to any of the patterns we just talked about. So if you've been on for the full hour of training here, what I would tell you is that if you can keep them out of the middle third of the court, remember we talked about these lines right here. With correct instruction and correct application of strategy, an aggressive baseliner really can only be an aggressive baseliner from in here, right? So everything we've talked about on this call diffuses an aggressive baseliner if you're able to play to these outside thirds of the court. So right out of the gates, when you're serving, I would be serving out wide a lot more often. Get them out of position where they're really not able to set their feet, where they can't hit that aggressive ball with high probabilities of it going in. Same thing on return of serve. You're going to want to follow these parameters to a T where you really want to try and keep them out of the middle third of the court as much as possible. Keep them off balance. Do everything you can to not let them set their feet and attack. That's where aggressive baseliners live and where they're the happiest.
I would add just you got to mix it up. Aggressive baseliners play off of confidence and rhythm. The more rhythm they have, the more confidence they get, the more they're willing to take their rips. So it can't be said enough. You've got to mix in slice. You got to mix in play
OMFG.
Yeah, we'll make that happen. As soon as we're both healthy.
As soon as we can walk again.
But yeah, so like you got to mix up the pace. And so I've seen some terrific aggressive baseliners that won't come into the net, lose to pushers, to lose to people they call hacks because they're not getting any pace. Remember, it's really, really hard to create pace with off pace, right? The harder that I hit the ball, the easier it is for Scott to generate pace. He just uses my pace and deflects it. So sometimes taking the pace off the ball is enough for that aggressive baseliner to get out of rhythm and get into some problems.
I like it. Rusty, thank you for the kind words, my man. Amish wants to know, can juniors play in player court? You can. If they're under 18, you have to do the communicating for them just because laws, and that's how they work. But yeah, absolutely. So if you've got a teenager that wants to jump in there and play, absolutely they can. Play. Matt says, thanks for the session. How's your membership in Australia? I'm south of Sydney. I believe in order of magnitude, we're by far the most popular in the US, but we've got some pretty good traction already in UK, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the big five. Yeah. South Africa, I think, got some pretty good traction. Yeah. And you're seeing our ads everywhere, man. We're going to fill this community up, which is why I'm so passionate about you guys all joining it. My goal would be to have hopefully 1 million players in this thing 3 years from now all over the world. Every time you travel, anywhere you go, you'll be able to connect with a fellow PlayYourCourt community member. So all of you guys, if you haven't already, definitely join.
Australia's doing well. We're building fast. Yeah,
for sure.
We got a couple ambassadors there that are working.
The weather there's certainly prime for it right now, where it's pretty cold here in Virginia Beach, Virginia.
That's right.
All right, we'll fill in one more question here. and again, I'm not ignoring you guys. I'm sorry. There's just a lot of stuff in here. I'm going to let Nate field this because it's hard. Arthur wants to know, how do you attack an opponent who uses a lot of backspin to deaden his shot or side spin? So somebody who's chipping a lot or with some funky sort of junky spin.
Yeah.
How do you attack this type of opponent?
Yeah, they're tough. I mean, that's like the junk baller that we're talking about. So it's exactly what we were just talking about with the aggressive baseliner. If you have a big punch him in the mouth type of game, this type of player with all the backspin can take you completely out of your game because they're not giving you any kind of rhythm. We did a video on how to beat the junk baller, and our chief strategy was the battering ram.
Yep.
And the reason being is that slice works really at its best, right? When you're able to get on the outside of the ball, you're working around the ball, because that way you can cut the ball and you can keep it low and it darts, right? So when you keep them in the middle, you're making the slices more difficult, but it's also really, really tough for them to play out on any angles. So at some point they're going to float a slice, and that is where you can look to attack them. But yeah, with the junk ballers, big through the middle, the battering ram is a big plus, and then surprise them, right? So when you hit this ball, and maybe you hit one really big through the center of the court, come in behind it, right? Because it's hard to create an angle. You're probably going to get an overhead.
Cool. I'm going to address a couple more here. Sorry. So Ryan wants to know, does PlayYourCourt have an affiliate program? For those of you who are getting ready to hear this for the first time, I think you're going to be pumped. We're actually getting ready to introduce a referral program where if you refer 5 friends into the community, you get a free tennis racket of your choice from Wilson.
That's bonkers. I bought this for I'm just kidding.
We've got a fantastic partnership with Wilson, which is why you see us always in Wilson swag. So there's that referral program that we're going to be implementing here within the next, I think, 3 weeks. But then, yes, if you're looking like on like a business side, yes, we do. Send us a direct message on Facebook or on Instagram, and we can tell you more about it.
And just to make sure everybody heard that, you sign up 5 of your friends, we're going to send you a brand new tennis racket.
Any racket of your choice, too. Let's see here. Matt says, thanks, I'll sign up and give it a go. Thanks, Matt. I appreciate that, my man. Are these sessions going to happen regularly? Yeah, sorry. In the winter and obviously around the holidays, we shut it down a little bit to spend some time with our families. But they happen at least once a month. When we get into March, they'll probably happen at least bi-weekly. So the next one of these, I don't even have the calendar in front of me, but is going to be in February. And Nate's going to probably start doing some live Q&As once a week here as we get into the spring as well, if you guys are nice. So Toby says, I love Wilson.
Nice. Yeah, if you're nice, I'll do the Q&A.
Toby says, I love Wilson. Toby, so do I.
Yes.
All right, guys, that's all we've got for tonight. If you're not a Plus member, this is your only chance to see this. Sorry. So sign up. If you're not in our community, again, I know I'm pitching this hard, but please go check it out, PlayYourCourt.com. And if you are in the community and you're seeing this and you're like, man, I wish I could see access to more stuff like this, upgrade to Plus. Just go into your video section. Anything that's locked, if you click it, you'll see a little option to upgrade to Plus and get all the stuff you want. I guess we should also mention that we are doing some workshops this year, backed by popular demand. We used to only do these yeah, like the live on-court stuff, so much fun. We used to really only do a couple of these a year in Indian Wells and at the U.S. Open. But I'm going to be honest with you, man, we just miss people. Like COVID's not been that much fun as much as, you know, I enjoy spending time with Nate. Some more humans would be okay.
My quarantine, buddy.
So yeah, if you want to check out any of that stuff, there's a ton of options there. Some workshops coming up. We do a thing called Finish Your Technique training. It's expensive, but we actually offer 100% satisfaction guarantee, where if you come here and train with us for 2 days, we give you a 6-month game plan. If at the end of that 6 months, your technique isn't completely done, we just refund you the money. So check that out. But if you go to PlayYourCourt.com and the little services drop down up at the top there, there's a work with Scott and Nate section, so you can check all that stuff out. But thank you guys for all the kind words here, and we will see you next time. Happy New Year. Really enjoyed it.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. Talk to you soon.
later. Cheers.